Another piece of bad news is this. You can't always trust your IT staff. Now, I know. Surely there's no one more trustworthy than the guys in IT. But sometimes not all of the hacks are being perpetrated by people outside your organization. They are not all wearing hoodies and connecting in the middle of the night. Some of the attackers may actually be people who walk in through your front door, sit at your desk, who already know the passwords because you gave them the passwords. Let me give you an example. Wouldn't it be fantastic to win the lottery? Wouldn't that be lovely? I'd love to win the lottery. That'd be really handy for me right now, I'll tell you. Well, in December 2010, someone did win the lottery. They won the Hot Lotto Sizzler, as it's called in Iowa. Someone went into this petrol station in West Des Moines, and they went up to the stop. They bought a lottery ticket and a hot dog, and they waited. They waited until December 29th, which is when the lottery draw was held, and they won $14.3 million. Not bad. Not bad at all. And you know what's really weird about this? Is that nobody claimed the prize. Someone won $14.3 million and then they didn't claim the prize. Now in Iowa, there is a rule, which is that if a lottery prize is not claimed within, I think it's 6 months, it goes to charity instead. So they needed someone to claim it. And time went by, no one claimed the prize until just before the deadline, with hours remaining on the clock. A lawyer came forward representing what he said was his anonymous client. He said, I've got a client, he wants to claim the prize via a corporation based in Belize. He knows that, but he'd like to get the 14 million if that's all right. And the Lottery Commission said, you can't have it. Because under the rules of the Iowa lottery, even if you don't want publicity, you still need to tell them who you are. You need to be upfront and open and say, yes, explain that you are the winner. And the lawyer wasn't prepared to do that. And there's a bit of argy-bargy, and eventually the lawyer said, well, look, my client doesn't want to do that. How about you give us the money and we'll give it to charity instead? And the Lottery Commission said, we're not doing that. That's not the way it works. And so they were very, very curious as to what happened. And more months passed, and they kept on thinking, what was going on with that lottery win? Where the person knew that they'd won it, but they never claimed the prize. They thought, wouldn't it be good to try and find out who that person was and try and understand what was really going on there? And so they looked at the lottery ticket, and they knew that it had been bought at this convenience store in West Des Moines in Iowa on December the 23rd, 2010, by a man who came in, bought a lottery ticket and a hot dog. And they said to themselves, I wonder if we got some CCTV footage, if we could actually see that. And here it is. You've got the man, he's coming here. You can't hear the audio at the moment, but he's basically asking for a lottery ticket. Oh, there you are. The other guy goes to the machine, grabs the ticket, and he's going to hand it over. Let's take another look. Here we are from another view. You can see this guy appears to be wearing some kind of hood. He's kind of concealed, quite a big guy. That's the guy who won the lottery. 14.3 million, but never actually claimed it. Well, they did all kinds of analysis on the video, and they even looked at the size of the floor tiles and worked out his approximate height and his build, trying to estimate his weight. And they began to publicize this video online, saying, hey, do you know who our mystery lottery winner was? And then someone came forward and said, yeah, I know who that is. That's Eddie. It's Eddie Tipton. Eddie Tipton, the IT guy. Works at the, he's the IT guy for the Iowa lottery. Whoa, hang on. If you work for the Iowa lottery, you're not allowed to to play the Iowa lottery because people might think something's a bit naughty going on. You're not supposed to do that. Now, Eddie said it had nothing to do with me. He said, it's nothing to do with me. I wasn't even in the area. I wasn't in Des Moines. And they looked at his cell phone and it said, well, actually, yeah, you were there. It does appear you were in the area. Eddie said, look, no, you're kidding me. You can't possibly be. I don't even like hot dogs, he said. I don't like hot dogs. They make me sick. Now, I'm no expert on hot dog eating. Actually, I am an expert on hot dog eating. I love a hot dog. I would suggest that Eddie might be a fan of hot dogs as well. I'm just putting it out here. So, how did Eddie break the lottery? Well, what happens is the draw computer, the one which works out the numbers, is contained within a sealed room. It's a computer which is not connected to the internet. It is in a room. There are glass windows all around it. There's also a CCTV camera. There's security cameras which are watching that computer all of the time. It can only be entered by 2 people at once. And that is the thing which generates random numbers for the lottery. And it generates these random numbers using a Geiger counter. I don't want to get too nerdy because we haven't got the time, but it's a really interesting problem of how do you create random numbers with computers and make sure they really are random. In this particular case, they use a Geiger counter and it counts the clicks, tick, 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 tick. If it is a longer gap between ticks, I said I wasn't going to explain this, but now I'm enjoying myself too much. If there's a longer gap between ticks than the previous gap, that is a 1. If it's a shorter gap between the ticks than the previous gap, that is a 0. And if it's identical, it just ignores it. And that ends up giving you this huge number, which is then used as a seed for the random number generator, okay? So, as a consequence, there are 10.9 million possible sets of numbers in this Iowa lottery. You are more likely to be struck by lightning while being attacked by a shark than you are to win this lottery. What are the chances the guy in charge of IT at the lottery should win the actual lottery? Well, it was helped a little bit by the CCTV cameras, because the CCTV cameras had actually been installed by Eddie Tipton's brother, who ran a security company. So he'd brought him in, he'd been the guy who set up the CCTV cameras, and as a result, the CCTV cameras only recorded 1 second out of every minute. So they were created. If you looked at the footage, you saw stuff, but what you didn't see was very much movement, because normally there was no one in there. But it was only doing 1 second every 60 seconds. Eddie took a USB stick, plugged it into the computer, and he changed a bit of code. Here is what his code basically did. It said, if it's not a leap year, and if the day is the 147th or the 327th or the 363rd day of the year, and if the weekday's a Wednesday or it's a Saturday, which is when the lottery occurs, then fiddle around with the random number generator. That is equivalent to saying if it's May the 27th, November 23rd, or December 29th, then mess with the draw on those particular days. And then rather than it being 10.9 million possible combinations of numbers, it's actually a few hundred sets of possible outcomes. So on those particular dates, when the lottery computer has been fiddled with, you actually only have to buy a few hundred lottery tickets. So just go around as many places as you can, as many convenience stores, and if you buy a few hundred, you are going to win the lottery. And so, when someone went to this convenience store and bought their lottery ticket, they knew they were going to be a winner within just a few days. And as a consequence, Eddie Tipton and Tommy, his brother who set up the CCTV cameras, were, of course, caught. And it turns out this wasn't Eddie's first win, because when the authorities looked into the case, they discovered that, surprise, surprise, Tommy, he'd previously won another lottery. He'd won the Colorado lottery, $568,000, which was being administered by the Iowa lottery organization as well. So he'd done very well. And then Eddie's best friend, Robert, he'd also won $783,000 on the lottery. There were all these other family members who hadn't felt scared about going to the authorities and saying, hey, I've actually got a lottery ticket. But of course, it was rather suspicious. They were all pals of each other who were doing so well. So, the lottery was being scammed, and that was how it was happening, was through a physical security issue done by an insider inside the organization who was able to tamper with the code. As a consequence of this, Eddie was sentenced. He was given a sentence of 25 years in prison. Now, we all know you're not going to serve 25 years in prison. He's probably out on parole by now, I imagine. He's probably slimmed down a little bit as well, because I doubt they're serving him hot dogs in the prison. So you can't trust your IT staff, I'm afraid. Some of them might be hacking you, and there are other people inside your organization who could pose a cybersecurity threat as well. Think of it this way when you think of the insider threat. If you remember Nick Leeson and the damage which he did, it was at Barings, I think, wasn't it? The damage which he did to that organization and to the whole financial world. He was an insider, someone who was acting maliciously inside an organization without proper approval, without proper oversight into what they were actually doing. Thank you very much.